President Obama's recent directive that public schools must allow transgender students to use the opposite bathroom of their physical birth sex is part of a broader discussion about gender in America. Questions about who should go where have become federal civil rights issues. The definitions of gender are expanding on college campuses and in popular culture. To understand the new notions that go beyond male and female, Scott Thuman explores the new vocabulary of sex.
I'm about to do something terrifying, which is I'm coming out to you as a non-binary person, which means that I don't fit within... I'm getting emotional, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
20-year-old Maria Munir came out to President Obama at a town hall in London last month. If you were left scratching your head as to what non-binary means, well, admittedly, so were we. So we reached out to Mara Kiesling, the executive director of the National Center for Transgender Equality.
A non-binary person is somebody who just believes that the binary, that is, that there's just men and women, and that men have to be a certain way and women have to be a certain way, that doesn't work for them.
Kiesling is a transgender woman. She was born male and transitioned at age 40. Kiesling was arrested in North Carolina last month for protesting House Bill 2, the new law that requires people to use the bathroom corresponding to the sex on their birth certificate.
Some people, those boxes aren't real. Those boxes can't constrain them, and they've looked for new language to explain that.
Kiesling estimates that as many as 4 to 5 million Americans identify as something other than the biological sex they were born into, a fraction of the population with an outsized representation in our pop culture. Between hit shows like Amazon's Transparent,
So I have something to tell you.
And former Olympic athlete Bruce Jenner's transition to Caitlyn, as documented on the show I Am Kate.
I'm the new normal.
There's clothing line company Zara's unfolding of its ungendered clothing line, and Calvin Klein's release of a new gender-neutral perfume.
A new scent for the two of us.
On Facebook, one can select one of 58 genders. At Georgetown University, we spoke to students who have embraced a new language to explain their gender identity.
Once I realized that it wasn't like traditionally masculine, then I was like, is it feminine? And like I questioned that for a while, and then I realized it wasn't feminine either, so I finally settled on like non-binary.
I identify as a female. I identify as a woman, the female woman. I'm a cis woman, so my gender identity does match what I was assigned at birth.
To me, a lot of being a queer woman is understanding that you live in that gray space, you live in the ambiguity, and you don't always have that definition, and being okay with that.
College campuses like theirs have been on a gender bender for some time. At nearby American University, this guide teaches students how to use pronouns respectfully and counsels students to always ask what someone's pronouns are.
And I think it's really important to respect how someone identifies. And so there's a certain, I think we should all be learning how to use these terms.
Carlo Izzo prefers them, their, they pronouns, since they is neither a he nor a she.
There's so many gendered ways that we speak, and we assume other people's gender based off of that. And like they, them, their, just like the first step in creating pronouns that are gender neutral.
In fact, the American Dialect Society chose they as the word of the year in 2015 to be used by people rejecting the traditional binary of he and she. It's a trend that riles critics. Jay Nordlinger, the senior editor of the conservative magazine National Review, wrote, "The new pronouns are ugly and soulless, like robot language, and that today's obsession with sex, self, and identity is terribly damaging."
What about Z?
But Z is a gender-neutral pronoun that was developed over the last couple decades that's meant to be a substitute for either he or she.
To Tennessee State Representative Bill Dunn and a lot of ordinary Americans, it sounds like talk from another planet.
I think it's good when you say somebody's a he or a she and he called me. That kind of tells somebody something. If you go, I'm going to go meet Z, somebody's thinking you're meeting somebody from a different planet.
So what do you say to those critics who look at what's happening right now and they say this is just political correctness run amok, it's silly?
No. First of all, political correctness is just respecting people, particularly in something that doesn't matter to you, doesn't hurt you, doesn't impact you in any way, why you would care whether somebody is transgender is sort of beyond me.
Scott's here now. We heard in the piece an estimate of 4 to 5 million people who fit into this category, but do we really know how many there are?
No, and Kiesling says there were a couple of reasons for that. One is the federal government doesn't survey for this. It's not part of their census inquiry, for example. But perhaps the larger reason is there's a big population of people out there who just aren't comfortable being open yet with this information.
We just don't know how big. All right, Scott, thanks. Still ahead on Full Measure, we've been reporting for months on the release of Islamic extremist detainees from Guantanamo. Ahead, we've learned a high-level intelligence official shoots down the administration's key rationale for freeing those enemy combatants.